Good afternoon, students. I'm going to discuss algae in today's lecture. Okay. Good afternoon again to all students. Now, let's have a look at the video of the protest. Okay. It's a video from Frank Giorgio production. Okay. And before starting, let's have some introduction. What are algae? Okay. What are algae? And algae basically consists of a wide variety of organisms, and from those that appear green stain on the damp rocks and tree trunks to that those form fine scum on the quiet ponds and the massive seaweeds that float in the ocean and algae are eukaryotic, and most of them are predominantly aquatic photosynthetic microorganisms or organisms, and they are as small as 1 micrometer in diameter to even the as big as 60 meters also. Okay. And the algae basically provides much of the earth's oxygen, and they are the food base for almost all living aquatic life. Okay, most of the aquatic life, and they are also source of the crude oil, some of them, they can also provide food and pharmaceutical and industrial products for the humans. Okay, so they contain photosynthetic pigments which are more varied than those of plants, and their cells have features which are generally not found in the case of plants and animals. And some of the groups of the algae are very ancient ones, whereas some of them have evolved more recently. Okay, although algae are photosynthetic organisms, they lack a specialized reproductive structures which are similar to that of plants, which always have a multicellular reproductive structures that contain fertile gamete producing surrounded by the sterile cells. Okay, and algae also lack true roots, stems and leaves which are generally present in the plants. Okay, and many type of algae consist as single cells and also found are in a colonial form or also in a multicellular forms. And till now about 27,000 marine and freshwater species of the algae have been described, where freshwater means lake, rivers, ponds, etc., and the marine means sea, oceans, etc. Okay, and algae are basically found all over the earth, particularly in oceans, rivers, lakes, streams, and even the marshes. Okay, and they sometimes accumulate on the place where the water is found. Okay, although they are usually found in water and moist places, some species of the algae can also inhabit the soil and can survive dry conditions for a longer time and algae may be also found on leaves, especially in tropics and subtropics, and on wood and stones. Okay, and on wood and stones, and some species live within or on plants and animals. Okay, so basically what are algae? I just give you a basic information about algae, but actually what are algae? Have you ever seen that what looks green slime growing on lake and a pond? Okay, and that's probably the algae, the greenish like structures which are normally seen and are filamentous structures which are seen in the pond water are basically algae, and they are some of them are even slime producing ones. And okay, and there are variety of algae. Okay, there are variety of algae, diatoms. Okay, they are a type of algae called diatoms, where each diatom is made up of only one cell, and they have shells made up of opal, which is bit like a glass, and they are covered in the intricate ridges and the holes. Now here is a photograph given here are of the diatoms. Okay, so these diatoms, basically the hard shell of a diatom is impermeable and nothing can flow through it. That's why it is covered in small holes, and the holes let in nutrients and let out the waste products also. There are another one also, zoochlorella, which basically each of these tiny green bulbs in its own single celled algae called zoochlorella, and zoochlorella only live inside the other creatures. Kelp. Okay, next one is kelp. Kelp is a type of algae which is also known as seaweed and is usually brown and grows underwater in the giant forest. Okay, now algae, let's start with the properties of the algae. Okay, so algae, they are also known as seaweeds, pond scrubs, frog spittle, and water mosses, and are studied under the algology or phycology also. Okay, it is also known as phycology. Okay, and they are the simple plants with the autotrophic nutrition, and they are chlorophyll bearing organisms which are thyroid and have not differentiated as roots, stems and leaves. And algae comprises a group of chlorophyll containing thyroid plants of the simplest type, but does not have roots, stems, leaves or leaf-like organs. Okay, almost most of the algae are autotrophic, that is they synthesize their food by themselves, yet in some cases they may be heterotrophic or holozoic. Okay, and the term algae is used even if the plant, basically algae, is a unicellular. Some botanists say this is a plant. Okay, this is a plant, and as per microbiologists, we simply use the term algae. Okay, which may be multicellular or unicellular ones. Okay, the thallus is basically non-vascular and thus have no elements for the transport or fluids, and algae can afford this simplicity because, with only few exceptions, they are water dwellers, through which from the water through which they can absorb the various other nutrients easily. Okay, and they have non-jacketed or either unicellular sex organs or multicellular, in which every cell produce a gamete, and in which most of them are among the simplest in the plant kingdom. Okay, are basically simplest in the plant kingdom. So the general characters of the algae: most are aquatic, found in marine and freshwater ones. Marine, as I told you, sea, ocean, etc. Freshwater, lakes, ponds, rivers, etc. Diverse, they are also found in other diverse environments, such as in the soil where the moisture content is high, near the rocks. Okay, near the rivers, ponds, wet logs, and also in the snows. Okay, in the colder regions, okay, and a variety of pigments are basically present in the algae. Okay, through which they can absorb light. It also has a chlorophyll which helps the algae to perform photosynthesis as well. And the simpler thyroid body, okay, it has a simpler thyroid body rather than a branched or root like structures which are basically present in the plants. Vascular system is absent in, okay, it is absent. Mechanical tissue is basically absent in the algae, because these are not the plants. They are eukaryotic, but not the plants. Their cell wall is basically made up of cellulose. The reserve food material is starch or maybe oil, protein, or even lipid or various other components also. Okay, and the non-sterile jacketed uni or multicellular sex organs. Okay, non-sterile jacketed unicellular or sex organs are present, and the multicellular sex organs, every cell of the thallus is capable of producing gametes. In the case of multicellular sex organs, every cell of the thallus is basically capable of producing gametes. Okay, now next one, sexual reproduction is of isogamous. The sexual reproduction is of isogamous. Okay, what is isogamous? It's a form of sexual reproduction. Okay, that basically involves gametes of similar morphology. okay, which involves gametes of similar morphology. Okay, I'm again repeating, what do you mean by isogamous? Okay, it's a form of sexual reproduction that involves gametes of a similar morphology. Okay, but differ in general only in the alleles expression in one or more mating type regions, okay. Next comes next comes anisogamous, okay. It's an again sexual reproduction mode in which union or the fusion of two gametes occur, in which union or the fusion of two gametes occur, which basically differs in size and or form. Okay, so I'm repeating the definition again of the anisogamy. Anisogamy is the form of sexual reproduction. It's a form of sexual reproduction that involves the union or the fusion of the two gametes which differ in size or form, and the smaller gametes is considered as male, whereas the larger gamete, okay, larger gamete is considered as female. Okay, simple. Okay, now comes the next one. It's called oogamous, okay, or oogamy in short. Okay, where oogamy is just a similar uh, to that of anisogamy. It's a form of anisogamy, okay, in which a female gamete, okay, is significantly larger than the male gamete, but another main property is, it is non-motile, and the male gametes are typically highly motile and are usually used for the necessary travels for the contact with the other gametes. Okay, so moving forward with the next point, and under favorable conditions, algae multiplies asexually, and after gametic fusion, no embryo will be formed, which basically embryo is formed in the case of plants. In the case of plants, embryo is formed, okay, whereas in the case of algae, embryo is not formed. Next one, haploid and diploid cycles are independent. Okay, haploid and diploid cycles are independent. That is, it means the distinct alternation of generations. Okay, and what do you mean by alternation of generations? It's simple. Alternation of generation is basically the type of a life cycle that occurs in the plants and algae. Okay, and it is also called metagenesis or heterogenesis. Okay, basically we have seen the same in the case of fungi also. One time it produces under sexual phase, at another time it produces under a asexual phase. Okay, so the alternation of generation means at one time it is going to reproduce sexually, at another time it is going to reproduce asexually. Okay, now moving to the next one, as I told you in the starting of the lecture, okay, they are found in many places of the earth, and they occur in the abundance, okay, in the ocean, seas, lakes, freshwater lakes, ponds, streams, etc. Many are found in the damp soils, on rocks, stones, tree barks, and some some are found in plants and animals also. Okay, now more of them. Occurrence of algae. The small aquatic forms make up large part of the free living microscopic life in water called planktons. Okay, there are basically two type of planktons. One are phytoplanktons, which are basically made up of plants, and the other one are the zooplanktons. Okay, and these planktons, which is a principal food of many of the aquatic animals, including such large ones as whales also. The plankton is generally composed of both animal and algae and microscopic animal forms, and the phytoplanktons is made up of algae, that is algal forms, and zooplankton forms, and is composed of, and the zooplankton is composed of animal organisms. Okay, and algae are found where there is a sufficient light, moisture, and simple nutrients to sustain their growth. Okay, and this algae can be found in at the other places also, where the conditions are basically not good. Okay, so there are variety of algae. Okay, and there are some group of algae which share common features with the protozoa also, as well as the fungi. But as you all know, protozoa and fungi do not contain chloroplast for the photosynthesis. Okay, and some algae appear to have closer evolutionary relationship with the various protozoa also. Okay, and the basically knowledge of and the use of algae are perhaps as old as humankind's, and still now seaweeds are still eaten by some of the coastal peoples also, and the algae are considered as acceptable food in many restaurants also. Okay, now certain species are also capable of tolerating high temperatures. Okay, which can even grow at up to 80 degrees. Some can even live in the hot springs. Okay, which basically has a high temperature, and some are also found in the very cold environment also. Okay, also found in the very cold environment also. Okay, and may have red pigments also, and at other extreme some algae grow in the hot springs at the temperature as high 80 degrees Celsius. This is just an example I've given is of a 55 degrees Celsius. Okay, where brine lakes of arid southwestern United States. Okay, the some algae are also adapted to the moist soils, bark of trees, surface of rocks, which basically algae degrade. Okay, and the decomposition products are made available for the soil building and the enrichment of the soil. Okay, sometimes algae can be problematic in the water supplies also, because they produce undesirable taste and odor. Okay, because they produce undesirable taste and odor. Okay, so basically algal habitats are divided into four types. The first one is the aquatic. The second one is the terrestrial habitat, and the third one is the aerial habitat, and the fourth one were other habitats which do not fit on the above habitats. It may be parasitic ones or any other habitats also. Okay, so starting with the aquatic habitat, next comes terrestrial, next aerial, and the last one is unusual habitat. And the aquatic habitat basically usually occurs in ponds, pools, tanks, ditches, streams, or in slow running rivers, which are basically the freshwater ponds. And marine algae are found in sea, and macroscopic large thalli of brown algae are commonly known as seaweeds. Okay, and marine algae, such as which are common, okay, are noticeable on the rocky coastlines, okay, and in the northern temperate climates, and they form a almost continuous film over the rocks, and in the tropics they are found on the floors of the lagoons, and they are associated with the coral reefs also, and also with the various other island forms also, okay. And there are several species of algae that contribute to the reef formation by secreting calcium carbonate, okay. And I hope you all know what are reef, okay. I hope you all know what are uh, reef forms, okay. And as a group, okay, basically this aquatic algae is divided also further into three environments, okay, into three environments. One is the freshwater, okay, the second one is the marine, and the saline, next one is the saline, okay. It basically represents a saline is not just a simple saline one, but a very high saline environment, but a highly saline environment, okay, which is a higher concentration of the salts. Now freshwater is basically divided into two, lentic and lotic forms. Lentic means a still water, okay, where water is basically in a still form and it is not moving, okay. In this case, algae such as Zagnima, Chara, Odigonium are basically present, okay. In the case of lotic forms, where the water is moving, especially in the rivers where the water is moving sometimes, okay, especially in the rainy seasons, and at there algae eulothrix or cladophore may be found, okay. In the case of marine, there are many of the examples. I have used just three of them. It includes Ectocarpus, Laminaria, Polysiphonia, okay. And in the case of a saline algae, it basically includes Oscillatoria and pediastrum, okay. Now moving forward with the terrestrial habitat, okay, with the terrestrial habitat, many algal genera are found on or beneath are basically found on or beneath the moist soil surface, are basically found on or beneath the soil surface, are basically called as terrestrial algae, okay, are basically called as terrestrial algae, okay. And there are two types, okay, you can see in the diagram, okay. One are the saprophytes, another one are the cryophytes, okay, cryptophytes. And basically saprophytes grow or the soil surface, okay, where the cryptophytes grow underground the soil surface, okay. It is not on, and it includes members of Cyanopiaceae, and examples are Vaucheria, Bonchdium, Fritiella, okay, Fritiella. And cryptophytes includes Nostoc, Anabina, Cyanopiaceae, Chlorella, etc. Okay. So the algae basically are basically found in variety of environments, okay, are basically found in variety of environments. So the composition basically depends on other factors also, such as temperature and various levels of moisture also, especially in the aerial and the terrestrial forms. Okay, now comes the aerial habitat. Okay, where it's not like they are found in air. Okay, it's not like they are found in air. Okay, such algal forms are adapted for a aerial mode of life and occur on the tree trunks, moist walls, rocks, fencing wires, and get their water, and also have a carbon dioxide requirements and completed directly from the atmosphere, and are called aerophytes. Now this aerial algae are divided into four types. Okay, are divided into four types. Okay, you may see that some of the examples may be repeated because they are found in the different types of habitats as well. Okay, the first comes are the epiphytics. Okay, or epiphyllophytes, which includes Phycopelletes on the rubus leaves, which includes Phycopelletes on the rubus leaves. Next comes lithophytes. Okay, which comes lithophytes. Basically, it means on rocks. Which basically means on rocks, which includes nostoc and vaucheria, which includes nostoc and vaucheria. And next comes epiphyllophytes. Epiphyllophytes, it means on the tree bark. And examples are Heploceson, and the next one is Formedium. Next comes is epizoophytes. Next one is the epizoophytes. It means on the animal body and includes the members of Chaetophorans. Okay, it's a group of algae which includes Chaetophorans. Okay, now moving with the next one, unusual habitats. Okay, now comes the unusual habitats, which includes cryophytes, which are basically found in very cold environments where there is snow. Okay, and generally they color the snow with various colors because the algae itself are colored, such as red, yellow, green, blue, etc. Okay, and similarly there are also some of them are, as I told you, found in higher temperatures also, around 50 to 70 degrees Celsius, of which some members of the blue green algae, which includes oscillatoria, and the second one is heteroharmogonium. Okay, next comes symbiotic association. Okay, next comes symbiotic association, in which one of the most and highly studied example is of a lichen, which includes again fungi, and the examples are of the family Cyanophyaceae, Corococcus, Nostoc, Chlorella, Protococcus, and Palmella. Okay, and next comes the endophytic ones, which live inside the plants. Okay, which live inside the plants. Examples are Anabina in pteridophytes and cycas roots. Okay, I will show you the pictures in the next lecture. Okay, I will show you the pictures in the next lecture on the Monday. Okay, and the last one is basically endozoophytic. Okay, in which basically algae are found in the animal body. For example, Zooxanthellae in the sponges and Zooxanthellae in the hydra. Now, some basic information of the algae, which also includes some of the main property. Okay, about half of the oxygen we breathe today Okay, about the half of the oxygen we breathe today is made by the algae, is made by the algae. And all algae have the same energy source. Just like plants, algae gets energy from the sun in a process called photosynthesis. And during this process, they also take in carbon dioxide and use it to make oxygen. Okay, and there comes the algal bloom. The photograph you can see here is basically a algal bloom. The greenish one on the water, which has covered the water, is basically algal bloom. When the temperature, sunlight, and other conditions are basically optimal, okay, are optimal for the algae cover can take over a pond or a lake or even a larger area of the ocean, or even a larger area of the ocean. And these big green bodies are generally called as algal blooms. Okay, are known as algal blooms, and which can be easily identified by their sizes. Okay, and if you take a closer look, okay, if you take a closer look at this algae, okay, it contains various small colonies of the algae, and finally, due to overgrowth or the conditions, because it's are good for the algal growth, okay, it spreads through the waters. Okay, and you can see also algae are like trees, okay, and grass of our oceans, lakes, ponds, and rivers. Like plants, they take in sunlight and use to make sugar and oxygen. To make sugar and oxygen. Okay, so algae basically possess a number of distinct physical as well as the ecological features. Okay, so they have a wide variety in their size and the range also, and also as a wide variety of their shapes also. Okay, and the algae are almost ubiquitous throughout the world, and being the most common is of their habitat is the aquatic habitat. Okay, and this algae can also live inside the organisms also, and in general sense these are termed as endosymbionts. These are termed as endosymbionts.